Okay, so let's do summary on a previous verse on chapter 8. In a previous verse, we explained that the prophet tell us that he got old, and he appointed both of his son, Yoel and Aviah, to judge the Jewish people because he got old and it was very difficult to around. We also explained that Yoel and Aviah moved the main base to Beersheba, right down in the south, and we explained that the children of Shmuel and Levy, the prophet Samuel, didn't follow his way in a previous show, and we explained what it means didn't follow his way. That not that Has v'Shalom, we explained that they took bribe and everything, we explained that. But we explained that they didn't follow his way, like the prophet Samuel used to go from city to city, from suburb to suburb, okay, and never used to take money. While his son, that stood in Beersheba, they make the main headquarters, the main, let's call it Bedin, in Beersheba. And they used to collect money from people to pay the person that write the scroll, the psak din, to pay those people that used to do the judgment, that mean the officers, to make sure that everything working. And that's how we explain what it means that didn't follow his way. Also, we explain towards the end of chapter 8 that the elderly of the Jewish people came to Prophet Samuel and said to him, listen, we want a king. We want a king that's going to rule us. And we explained that the prophet Samuel took it personally and he got hurt by it until HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed himself to him and he said, listen, they're not against you. A matter of fact, they're against me. They don't want any more religion. They don't want any more mitzvot. They don't want to live in the level that they will get to see miracle. Because why? If you see miracle, it means that you have to be in a higher level. And they prefer not to be in a higher level. That means that they don't have to work hard in Yiddishkeit, that they don't have to keep all the mitzvot, they don't have to be in the level of a highly scholar people. They want life easier. And that's why they want a king. It's not because they don't like you. And also that the prophet accept what HaKadosh Baruch Hu said to him, he was very disappointed. How come the Jewish people want a king? He didn't accept it. It was very difficult for him. HaKadosh Baruch Hu then tell the prophet, tell him the protocol of a king. What is a king entitled to? And the prophet Samuel told the nation the protocol of the king. And with all of that, the nation decided that they want a king. Rabotai, chapter 9 come to teach us about divine providence. And a matter of fact, here in this chapter, we'll see that the dynasty of the king actually starting here in this chapter, in chapter 9. But before we start, I would like to open with a story, a very interesting story that can help us to understand what is it that divine providence. What is Hashgacha Pratit? How does it work? A story starts with the late Pittsburgh Rebbe. The Pittsburgh Rebbe used to live in Ashdod, and he used to have few institutes all over the country, all over Israel, and the Pittsburgh Rebbe used to go to America often to collect money, to raise money for his institute. And in one of the traveling, a rich man that he make arrangement with come to pick him up from the airport. And when he picked him up in the airport, the Pittsburgh Rebbe sat right next to the driver, that rich man, because the rich man didn't want to send his driver. He came with himself, and he even come with his private car. He didn't come with any other car of the company. He came with his private car. When the Pittsburgh Rebbe entered the car, he looked very surprised. He looked at the driver, and he looked where he's sitting, and he couldn't work it out what's happening. what happened, that the dashboard that the driver had, exactly the same dashboard, was where the Pittsburgh Rebbe was sitting. And he couldn't work it out what's happening here. And he looked very surprised. And he looked at the rich man, and he said to the rich man, what's happening in this car? I see that you have a steering, I have a steering. You have a dashboard, I have here a dashboard. What exactly happening here? I mean, I know that in overseas, in Israel, the steering wheel is on the left. I know in England and certain countries like Australia, like in South Africa, we know that the steering wheel is on the right. But I never saw in my life a car with two steering wheels and two dashboards. So the rich man smiled and he explained to him that he has a little boy that is a bit hyperactive. And when they drive, he loves to drive, he loves to turn the steering to feel like he's driving. And a few times he almost caused an accident when the father tried to turn to the right. He turned the steering to the left. So the father decided, listen, I don't want to have any more headache. Send the car to the company. And he asked the company, please put a steering with a dashboard. Just don't connect that steering, because I have a son that loves to drive with me. And every time that he fetch him from school, the son sits and he pretend like he's driving the car, and everything is in peace. When the Pittsburgh Rebbe heard that, he started crying. And the rich man looked at him and didn't know what to say. And then the rich man approached him and he said, listen, Rebbe, I didn't mean to offend you, but why are you crying? I hope I didn't offend you. He said, no, not at all. I'll tell you why I'm crying. You know, that's exactly what's happening in the world with us. HaKadosh Baruch Hu ran the world. Okay? But HaKadosh Baruch Hu given us a steering to let us think that we actually running our life. But as a matter of fact, we don't. HaKadosh Baruch Hu actually, he's the one that's running our life. He given us a steering to think that we can do whatever we want. He given us the ability to think that I can do, I can take, I can bring, I can sell, I can buy. As a matter of fact, it's not in our hand. And I'm crying because I see now exactly what's happening in the world, happening with your car and your son. And now I understand what our sages teach us. Why did I say that? That to teach us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu given us in life, let us run, let us come, let us sell, let us buy, all of that. And as a matter of fact, we're not in control. He just given us the feeling, the same like the father giving the son the feeling like he's driving the car. But as a matter of fact, who's driving the car? The father. Who's running the world? HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But he let us feel like we're running it. And that's the Hidush. Rabotai, why am I saying it? Because in this verse we learn all about Hashgacha Pratit and how things working, and how HaKadosh Baruch Hu making miracle. So in verse 1, Baal Koreh, Erev Tov, please don't forget to unmute your microphone, Jeffrey. Vayihi ish miben Yamin, what it means Yamin, from the tribe of Binyamin, Ushmo Kish ben Aviel, ben Chur, ben Bechoret, ben Afiach, ben Ish Yamini, Gibor.
There was a man of Benjamin. His name was Kish, son of Aviel, son of Zor, son of Bechoret, son of Afiah, son of a distinguished Benjamite, a mighty man of valor.
Okay. What's happening here? In this verse, the prophet tells us about a righteous man in the name of Kish ben Avihail, that he was from the tribe of Benjamin. And here he's telling us that basically he was a great man, a tzaddik, okay, a strong man. In verse 2, the prophet tell us something very interesting. ולא היה בן ושמו שאול, בחור וטוב, ואין איש מבני ישראל טוב ממנו, משכמו ומעלה, גבוה מכל העם.
He had a son named Saul who was exceptional and goodly. No one in Israel was handsomer than he. From his shoulders up, he was taller than any of the people.
Okay, here we're going to spend some time on that verse to explain what's happening here. The prophet tells us that he had a son in the name of Shaul, and Hazal explained why did they call him Shaul? Why did they call him Shaul? The Mefarshim explained Shaul, that it means that Milshon She'elah, that he always used to ask himself, Shaul always used to ask himself, is the deeds that he's doing, is that what HaKadosh Baruch Hu expect from him to do? All the time he was worried, is he doing the right thing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu expect from him? Said the Mefarshim, that's why they call him Shaul. But now we're going to explain about the character trait of Shaul. The prophet said that he was, how did he say? Velo haya ben bahur tov. What it mean, bahur tov? A good man. What it mean, a good man? That means that Hazal tell us the character trait that Shaul HaMelech, we're talking about Shaul, that Shaul HaMelech, that Shaul Melech had a special character trait. What was his character trait? So number one is the Mefarshim explained that he was humble. He was modest. Shaul HaMelech was humble and modest. But the prophet said, Bahur Tov. What it mean Tov? We have to understand what it mean Tov. That whatever he done, it was good in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That means that every deed that Shaul done, HaKadosh Baruch Hu loved these deeds. That means that everything that he done, it was good in the eyes of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then obviously he was a humble, he was modest, he was a strong man, he was a tall man, like the prophet tell us. And we have to understand how that a person like that reached to such character trait. Among his character trait, he had one more special character trait, that he was very quick. Shaul HaMelech, he was the one that grabbed the tablets from the hand of Goliath and ran away 60 kilometers. Remember we explained in a previous showing. But we have to understand, how did he get those special character traits? Ari HaKadosh, Rabbi Yitzhak Luria Ashkenazi, that born in Jerusalem 490 years ago, explained that the soul, the neshama of Shaul HaMelech, the soul of Shaul HaMelech, it was the soul that first of all was in Adam HaRishon. It was the spark of the soul of Shaul, that before Adam HaRishon sinned, eating from the tree of knowledge, he left the body of Adam HaRishon. The same is Moshe Rabbeinu, that reached to those levels. The Mefarshim explain, the Mefarshim explained there is certain neshamot of tzaddikim that when they realized that Adam HaRishon going to sin from Adam HaRishon, they sparked of that neshama left the body, and later on it's come back. And the soul of Shaul HaMelech was one of them. That means Hazal in the Gemara in Masechet Yoma tell us something very interesting. Hazal in the Gemara in Masechet Yoma chapter 22 verse 2, Hazal say something very interesting. Shaul, or they say, Ben Shana Shaul b'molcho. That means Shaul HaMelech was 1 year old when he became a king. The Gemara asks, how can you say that? The Torah, the Tanakh tell us specifically, the prophet tell us, Hu Bahur, he's a youth, he's a young man. How can you tell me that he's 1 year old? The Gemara given an answer, a Gemara metaretzet, she said like this. What it mean ben shana b'molcho? That Shaul, although that he was a youth, he was like a baby of 1 year old that never sinned. Although that he was young, although that he was a youth, usually the youth very full of energy, Shaul never sinned. He was like a baby of 1 year old. Never have sinned. Not only that, Hazal say that something very interesting. That from here you can understand the character trait of Shaul. Why they call him Shaul? That everything that he was doing, he was asking himself, is HaKadosh Baruch Hu happy with what I'm doing or not? And if not, he wouldn't do it. He just wanted to make sure that he's satisfying HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That was his main, main mission in life. By the way, as you know, Shaul HaMelech was the first king in a Jewish dynasty, the dynasty of the king. In verse 3, let's see what it tells us. ותאבדנה האתונות לקיש אבי שאול, ויאמר קיש אל שאול בנו, קח נא איתך את הנער, אחד הנערים, וקום לך בקש את האתונות.
One day, the donkeys of Kish, Saul's father, were lost. And Kish said to Saul, his son, please take one of the attendants with you, arise and go, search for the donkeys.
Okay. It's in English, it's a donkey, but actually atonot is she-donkey.
Uh-huh.
The prophet tell us that happened that the donkeys of the father of Kish one day disappear, the she-donkeys. And he said to him, take one of the servants, one of the boys, and go, please, and look for them, check where they are. The Malbin is Rabbi Meir Lebush Ben Yehiel Michel Weiser. He born in Ukraine around 215 years ago. In his commentary, he explained that, as a matter of fact, those donkeys never disappear. HaKadosh Baruch Hu actually hide them. They never lost. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu hide them. Why did he hide them? Why did he make sure that he hid them? That Shmuel, the prophet Samuel, and the future king Shaul will meet each other. He said, that's what's happening. And we'll see later on, next chapter, that's something very interesting, how they find them. Okay? In verse 4 and 5, ויעבור בהר אפרים, ויעבור בארץ שלישה, ולא מצאו, ויעברו בארץ שועלים, ואין, ויעבור בארץ ימיני, ולא מצאו. הם באו בארץ שלוף, ושאול אמר לנערו אשר עמו, לך ונשובה, פן יחדל אבי מן האתונות ודאג לנו.
He passed through Mount Ephraim, and he passed through the land of Shalisha, but they did not find them. They passed through the land of Shalim, but they were not there. And he passed through the land of the Benjamite, but he did not find them. They came to the land of Zuph, and Saul said to his attendant who was with him, come, let us return, lest my father stop thinking about the donkeys and worry about us.
Okay. In these two verses, we see that the prophet tells us that Shaul actually was a very considering boy that looked after the money of his father and going to look after the she-donkey. And he took the servant and the gone to look. While usually The servant, that's their job. If the animal lost, the shepherd go and look for them. It's not for the owner to go. But here we see that Shaul HaMelech, King Saul, didn't have any problem. He gone to look with the donkey, and he tell us all the places that they look and they couldn't find it, until they arrive in a place that called Tzuf. Why they call it Tzuf? We explain what it means, Tzuf. Okay? And there Shaul said to the boy, listen, we're going too far. I cannot imagine that the she-donkey can walk so far. As a matter of fact, let's go back, because I think that my father worried about me and you more than he worried about the she-donkey. Okay? They arrive in a place that's called Tzuf. We explain why Tzuf. But first, we have to understand, why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose she-donkey? Why dafka, an animal that is a donkey? What's the hidush here? So according to the pshat of the Dvarim, we can explain what it says in Parashat Kitetze, in Sefer Dvarim. In chapter 22, verse 1, the Torah tells us that one of the mitzvot that we have, if you see one of the animal of your fellow friend lost, you're obligated to bring it back. So that's why Shaul gone. But Rabbi Chaim ben Attar, born in the city of Sali in Morocco 328 years ago, he explained that what it say here, she-donkey. Why dafka donkeys? He said that if you take the word hamor, okay, it's milshon humriut. That means hamor, the root of the word is humriut. What it means, humriut? Physicality. He said that here HaKadosh Baruch Hu told us that if you see your fellow friends that left the spirituality, okay, you're obligated to bring him back to Yiddishkeit. Your obligation, our obligation, that we see a fellow Jew that took the wrong lane, we're obligated to show him the spirituality back, to bring him back to Yiddishkeit. Okay? The Rabbi Shlomo Milontwich, that's the Kli Yakar. He born around 484 years ago in Poland. He says that by that Shaul HaMelech gone to look after the she-donkey, he showed that he cared about the money of his father. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu done a test to see if you're going to really care about the animal. If you really care about the money of your father and you really care about the animal, you deserve to be a king. Why? Because the same like you care about the money of your father, you will care about the money of the nation. You're not going to waste their money. Number two, if you show that you care about animal, you'll care about the Jewish people. And that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu decided to test Shaul dafka with the animal. That he, by that he will care about the money of his father, he will care about the money of the Jewish people. He will make sure that there is judgment that will be perfect. There's no bribery. And that's how HaKadosh Baruch Hu tested who? Shaul, the king Shaul. The prophet also tell us that they arrived to a place that's called Tzuf. Why dafka Tzuf? What it means Tzuf? So Chazal say milshon tzofim. What it means tzofim? Tzofim, it means the scopus. That means the prophet that they see for the future. Okay, the Rabbi, Levy ben Gershom, he born in France. He born 736 years ago. By the way, he was, beside being a great scholar person, he was a doctor, he was a scientist and mathematician. He said that where is truth? You know where is truth? Tuf is a place right next to the house of Shmuel HaNavi, the prophet Samuel. Right where? In Ramot, in a suburb of Ramot in Jerusalem. That from there you can see the entire area of Jerusalem. From there they used to see, HaKadosh Baruch Hu used to give them prophecy, the Holy Spirit, and they can see all over. Okay, so now we understand why Dafka Enamo, why Dafka in Truth, and we'll see that it sounds like a coincidence, but in Jewish religion we say there is no coincidence. Let's continue to verse 6, and in verse 6 it says like this, ויאמר לו, הנה נא איש האלוהים בעיר הזאת, והאיש נכבד, כל אשר ידבר בו יבוא, אתה נלך שם, אולי יגיד לנו את דרכנו, אשר הלכנו עליה.
But the attendant said to him, behold now, there is a man of God in the city, and the man is esteemed. Everything he says is certain to occur. Let us go there now. Perhaps he will tell us which is our road upon which we should travel.
In this verse, the servant saying to the future king, listen, we arrived to the city of the prophet, Haroeh. What it means, Haroeh? A person that see. What it means see? He see the future. He see what's happening in a Holy Spirit. That means that we arrive in that city. Let's enter and ask him. Maybe he can help us and tell us where the she-donkey that your father lost. In verse 7, we learn something very important, Rabotai. And I think that if you understand that, if I manage to explain it properly, we'll understand a very important principle in life. In verse 7, it says, ויאמר שאול לנערו, והנה נלך, ומה נביא לאיש? כי הלחם אזל מכלנו, ותשורה אין להביא לאיש האלוהים. מה איתנו?
Saul replied to his attendant, behold, if we go, what shall we bring to the man? For the bread is gone from our vessels, and we have no gift to bring to the man of God. What do we have with us?
So we learn from here that the prophet tells us that Shaul HaMelech told the servant, listen, we can't go empty-handed. What are we going to give the prophet? We can't go with empty hand. You know, it's not nice to come to visit a holy man like this with empty hand. Tell the Mefarshim that for me here you learn a very important principle. When I say the Mefarshim, it's the Malbin. The Malbin say, when you go into a tzaddik, when you go into a rabbi to get advice, to get help, never come empty-handed. Never. Okay? Nachon, that I always say, if you go into a rabbi, if the rabbi asks you for money, run away. But here, the Malbin explained that Shaul HaMelech tried to teach us, it's up to you when you go to someone that is a righteous, that is a tzaddik, to get advice, to get help, don't go empty-handed. And we'll explain why not to go empty-handed. But what are we also learning from here? We're learning something very important. We learn that Shaul and the prophet Samuel didn't know each other. They didn't know each other. Shaul didn't know the prophet Samuel. How? Because Shaul was thinking to give him a present. But he didn't know that the prophet Samuel never took present. The prophet Samuel used to go from city to city to judge people. He used to go and teach people without receiving anything back from them. It's come to teach you that Shaul didn't realize who's the prophet, what the level of the prophet. And in verse 8 and 9, we see something very strange that hardly happened, but it will teach us a very important thing. Why we should give something when you go into a tzaddik. We'll see why now. Let's go to verse 8 and 7, and there it says, ויוסף הנער לענות את שאול, ויאמר, הנה נמצא בידי 15 כסף, ונתתי לאיש האלוהים, והגיד לנו את דרכנו. לפנים בישראל כה אמר האיש, בלכתות ראש אלוהים, לכו נלכה עד הרועה, כי לנביא היום נקרא לפנים הרועה.
The servant spoke up once more to Saul and said, Behold, I have a quarter of a silver shekel with me. I will give it to the man of God, and he will tell us about our way. It tells formerly in Israel, this is what someone said when they went to inquire of God. Let us go to the seer. For the prophet of today was formerly called the seer.
Okay, what's happening here? On a pshat of the dvarim, the boy said to Shaul HaMelech, I have a quarter of a shekel, silver gold shekel. Let's give it to the prophet, and he will tell us where's the she-donkey lost. That's the pshat of the dvarim. But the Mefarshim ask, isn't that embarrassed to give such a righteous man, when you're going to give a present, to give such a nebish a present? It's embarrassment. So the Minhag Tana explained that he explained it in a different way. He said, the Minhag Tana said, that the servant didn't understand the level and the spirituality, the high spirituality level of the prophet. Because he was thinking that a prophet is like a fortune teller. So he said, give him a quarter of a shekel. That's the Minhag Tana. The Ralbag explained it differently. The Ralbag explained it like this. He said that the servant wanted to give the prophet the coin. You know why? That if you give him the coin become part of the prophet. Now the energy that he gonna bring, he gonna realize where is the loss. That means where's the she-donkey. That means that the prophet can focus by that you're giving him the money, or you're giving him a present. He said when a person comes to see a rabbi, okay, said the Malbim, if you want the bracha to work, if you want things to fulfill, when you're giving him the present, it's not for him. It's like a pidyon nefesh. It's to do pidyon nefesh. What it means to do pidyon nefesh? That by that you give him the money, he's gonna redeem your soul as basically as a charity, and that will help you to feel better, to come better. He said the same here, said the Ralbag, that happened. That the boy wanted to give the coin to the prophet. Why? Because he wanted the prophet to focus his entire energy on that coin. And that will help him to find out where is the she-donkey. There is a noise at the back. Let me just check. I think that's one of the, I need to mute a few people. There's a lot of noise at the back. Sorry. Okay. I hope that I cut that background noise so it's not going to disturb us. So from here we see that the idea was that he, by that he'll hold the half a shekel, he can connect himself to their belonging. Okay? And what's happened there? Happened something very interesting, Rabotai, here. Here we see that something very interesting happening. And the prophet tell us that, where is it? Here is it. That the prophet, when they came to the prophet, the night before, said the prophet that HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed himself to the prophet, that's mean Prophet Samuel, and told him that tomorrow morning, you're going to meet the future king of Israel, Shaul HaMelech, and his servant. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu told them tomorrow morning, this is the time that you are going to meet the future king. In verse 11, המה עולים במעלה העיר, והמה מצאו נערות יוצאות לשאוב מים. ויאמרו להם, היש בזה הרואה, בכבוד?
Yes. As they were climbing the ascent to the city, they encountered some maidens going out to draw water. And they said to them, is this where the seer is?
Okay. Here we see something very interesting, that while they was walking, they saw the girls. The Mefarshim explained that Shaul HaMelech asked the girl, is the, first of all, the servant said to Shaul HaMelech, listen, we're already here. Let's go to the city of the servant. Let's ask if the prophet can help us to find those she-donkey. When they was walking into the city, they saw girls that going to draw water from the well. And while they was walking, Shaul HaMelech asked them, is the ro'eh here? Ro'eh is a person that see. That means he referring to the prophet. Is the prophet in the city? Chazal explained that Shaul HaMelech never stopped to speak to them. He was walking. He was continue walking. And in verse 12, we see something very interesting in verse 12 and 13. What exactly happening? And we'll see that there is no coincidence. And in verse 12, the prophet tells us, ותעננה אותם ותאמרנה, יש, הנה לפניך מהר, אתה, כי היום בא לעיר, כי זבח היום לעם בבהמה.
They answered them saying, it is. Talking about where the seer, it is here. It is. Behold, he is just ahead of you. Hurry now, for he came to the city today. For the people are bringing a feast offering today at the high place.
Okay, in this verse, we see that the girls answered the prophet very shortly. They said to him, listen, you came on the right time. He's in a city, he just arrived this morning. Listen to that. And not only that, please hurry up, go to his house, because soon he's going to do the peace offering. Okay, and then if you'll do the peace offering, then you can't talk to him. So you better go quick and see him. And verse 13, we see that suddenly things change with the mind of the girls. Look what it says. כבואם העיר, כן תמצאון אותו, בטרם יעלה הבמתה לאכול, כי לא יאכל העם עד בואו, כי הוא יברך הזבח, אחרי כן יאכלו הקרואים, ועתה עלו, כי איתו כיום תמצאון אותו, כי היום תמצאון אותו.
As you enter the city, you will find him, before he ascends to the high place to eat. For the people will not eat before he comes, since he blesses the offering. Only afterwards do the invited guests eat. Now go up, for you will find him as surely as it is day.
In this verse, we see something very interesting. At the beginning, those girls answer him very shortly and to the point. And suddenly, they continue talking to him. Listen, you came on a right time. You better leave now and go quickly up to him because he's going to go shortly to do the peace offering, and giving him a lot of information and talking to him. And we have to understand why, what's happened that suddenly the girls decide to talk to Shaul HaMelech. What was so important? You answered them, he's already in the city. Yes, he came today. He's planning to do the peace offering. Go to his house. Now, but here they've given him a lot of information that if you're not going to go now, okay, you're going to do the peace offering. If you're going to do the peace offering, you have to sit with all the important people. You have to eat with them. And then obviously people from the city that have questions, that want to ask halacha, going to speak to them. And then you're not going to have time, okay, to be with him. Why? Because it's many of the members of the people want to talk to the prophet. And then you're not going to have enough time for you. So the girls suggest to Shaul and the boys, quickly go up before he's going to start doing the peace offering. Hazal in a Gemara in Masechet Brachot, in page 48, folio 2, say number of reasons, actually they bring a number of reasons explaining why the girls suddenly start talking. What's the reason behind it? So one of the idea that Hazal and Gemara bring, and they say like this, that the main reason was because, number one, there is Hashgacha Pratit. There is a personal divine on a human being. And when Shaul arrived to the city, Shmuel HaNavi arrived last night to the city. That means that they're both going to meet today in the city, because if Shaul would arrive yesterday in the city, he wouldn't meet the prophet. Why? Because the prophet arrived this morning. If Shaul will come tomorrow, we don't know if the prophet going to be, because the prophet often leave and go to different city. He gone to check, he gone to do judgment, he gone to make sure that everyone follow Hashem's halachot, Hashem mitzvot, and learning Torah. So on a pshat of the dvarim, you can say Hazal and the Gemara telling us that it was Hashgacha Pratit. Another reason that the Hazal bringing that in a Gemara, that it's well known, we explained at the beginning of the Shaul, that Shaul HaMelech was a very nice looking man. He was a tall man. He actually was the tallest man amongst the Jewish people. He was a nice looking man. He was a strong man. Say Hazal in the Gemara that the girls actually enjoyed to look at him. They actually so much enjoy that that's why the reason that suddenly they decide to extend the conversation. But at the beginning, they talk very shortly, but when suddenly they realize who he is and how's he looking, they so much have joy from it to look at him, to look at his beauty. Hazal is bringing another idea in a Gemara. And they say, Hazal in the Gemara in Masechet Brachot, page 48, folio 2. They say actually that to understand that, we have to go to a different Gemara in Masechet Yoma, in page 38, folio 2. And there it says, Ve'en malchut nogat b'chaverta kemlo nima. Hazal in the Gemara in Masechet Brachot explain the Gemara, what Hazal tell us in the Gemara in Masechet Yoma. Hazal tell us that a person that's supposed to be a king, he will stay a king until the last minute that HaKadosh Baruch Hu given him. It's come to tell you that you know why the girls was speaking to Shaul, because it's not yet the time that Shaul gonna find out that he's gonna be the king. Now it's still the time for Shmuel Navi, although that he was a prophet, but he judged the Jewish people, so it's kind also of like a king, to continue to be like a king. Therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, there's another few seconds, another few more minutes, the girls will speak to you, and then they're going to finish to talk to you, and then you're going to find out that you're going to be a king. In verse 14 to 18, it says something very, very interesting, that the prophet actually described that Shaul and the servant walking to the house of the prophet. Let's read it quick and then we continue. ויעלו העירה, המה באים בתוך העיר, והנה שמואל יוצא לקראתם לעלות הבמה. ואדוני גילה את אוזן שמואל יום אחד לפני בוא שאול לאמור, כעת מחר אשלח אליך איש מארץ בנימין, משחתו לנגיד על עמי ישראל, והושיע את עמי מיד הפלישתים, כי ראיתי את עמי, כי בא צעקתו אליי. ושמואל ראה את שאול, ואדוני ענהו, הנה האיש אשר אמרתי אליך, ויעצור בעמי. ויגש שאול את שמואל בתוך השער, ויאמר, הגידה נא לי, אי זה בית הרועה. Jeffrey, you muted.
Right. So they ascended to the city. As they were entering the city, behold, Samuel was coming out towards them to go up to the high place. Now Hashem had revealed in Samuel's ear one day before Saul had come, saying, at this time tomorrow I will send a man to you from the land of Benjamin. You shall anoint him to be ruler over my people Israel, and he will save my people from the hand of the Philistines. For I have seen the distress of my people, since its cry has come before me. When Samuel saw Saul, Hashem spoke to him, this is the man of whom I said to you, this one will rule over my people. Saul approached Samuel inside the city gate and said, tell me, please, which is the house of the seer? Samuel answered, yeah, sorry.
No, that's it. Here we see something very interesting in those verses, that the prophet actually described to us that Shaul HaMelech and his servant actually marching up towards the house of the prophet, okay? But I wasn't sure where's the house. And Shaul and the servant walking up, and Shmuel HaMelech and the prophet Samuel coming out of his house to go to do the offering. Okay? The funny part, look at the Ashgaha Pratit, look at the divine providence, that Shaul and the servant didn't see any other men until they met with the prophet. How can it be? Walking through the city, not one man to ask where's the prophet? No. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted the prophet Samuel and Shaul, the king Shaul, to meet you face to face. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we say, that told Shmuel Navi, that he gonna see the following day, you're gonna meet who? The future king. When they met, Akadosh Baruch Hu revealed to Shmuel Navi, this is the king, this is the future king of my nation. He's the one that's going to save them from the Plishtim. What happened? King Shaul HaMelech asked the prophet, do you know where's the house of the Ro'eh? Ro'eh, we explain, is someone that see, that watch. The prophet said, I am the prophet, I'm the Ro'eh. That's all, didn't say more. That means that we learn from here that Shaul and Shmuel didn't know each other again. Akadosh Baruch Hu make sure that's going to happen a miracle, and from all the members of the city, they're going to meet each other. Where? On a direction going to the house of Shmuel HaNavi. In verse 19 and 20, we see that what the prophet saying to Shaul HaMelech. In verse 19, it says like this, ויען שמואל את שאול ויאמר, אנוכי הרואה, עלה לפניי הבמה, ואכלתם עמי היום, ושלחתיך בבוקר, וכל אשר בלבך אגיד לך. ולאתונות העבודות לך היום, 3 ימים, אל תשם את לבך להם, כי נמצאו, ולמי כל חמדת ישראל, הלא לך ולכל בית אביך.
Right. Saul approached, Samuel answered Saul, saying, I am the seer. Go up before me to the high place, and you shall eat with me today. I will send you away in the morning, and I will tell you whatever is in your heart. As for your donkeys, which have been lost to you now for 3 days, do not concern yourself over them, for they've been found. Besides, to whom does all the desirable property in Israel belong? If not to you and to all your father's family.
Here we see something very interesting, that the prophet hinting to Shaul, he's trying to hint to him that you're going to be a king, but he doesn't say it. First of all, he said to him, I'm the prophet, okay? And he hinted to him that the donkey's been found, you don't have to worry about him. And the main reason that you arrive here is not because you're donkeys. Because Lemi kol hemdat Israel. What does it mean, Lemi kol hemdat Israel? That who's the eyes of the Jewish people looking into? The new king. You are the new king. All the Jewish people looking for you. They want you as a king. That's how Rashi and the Metzudot David explain. It means that here the prophet already hinting to him that you didn't arrive here to look for the donkey. You arrived here to be anointed to become a king. You didn't come to look for the donkey. The donkey was an excuse because the donkey already been found. What you walking around for 3 days is just to meet me, because you're going to become the new king. I need to anoint you. And verse 21, here we see that the prophets speak to the king, the future king, and let's see what he said. ויען שאול ויאמר, הלא בן ימיני אנוכי, מקטני שבטי ישראל, וממשפחתי הצעירה, מכל משפחות שבטי בנימין. למה דיברת אליי כדבר הזה?
Saul answered, saying, but I am only a Benjamite, and am from the smallest of the tribes of Israel. And furthermore, My family is the youngest of all the families of the tribe of Benjamin. Why then have you spoken to me in this way?
So what's happening here? Here the prophet tells us that Shaul, the king, the future king Shaul, saying to the prophet and speaking to him very humbly, and he said, listen, first of all, I'm from the tribe of Benjamin. My family is the smallest family in the tribe of Benjamin. If that's not good enough, my family is the youngest family in a Benjamin. It can't be that I'm going to be the king. The Metzudot David explained that Shaul was thinking that the prophet actually blessed him, that he blessed him to be a king. He didn't realize, said the Metzudot David, that actually that the prophet telling Shaul that it's a prophecy. Listen, you're going to be the king. He didn't realize that, Shaul, because he was so humble. The Mefarshim explain something differently. The Mefarshim say that Shaul, the king Shaul, said to the prophet, why, please, why are you telling me that I'm going to be a king? You actually, it's make me very proud, and it can bring me to arrogancy. Why are you doing it? Please, please. I'm asking you nicely. Don't say that to me. In verse 23 and verse 24, let's see what's happening. It says like this, ויאמר שמואל לטבח, נא את המנה אשר נתתי לך, אשר אמרתי אליך, שים אותה עמך. וירם הטבח את השוק, והעלייה וישם לפני שאול, ויאמר, הנה אני שאר, שים לפניך, אכול, כי למועד, שמור לך לאמור, העם קראתי, ויאכל שאול עם שמואל ביום ההוא.
Samuel said to the cook, bring the portion that I gave you, about which I told you. Keep it with yourself. So the cook lifted up the thigh piece with what was attached to it and placed it before Saul. Samuel then said, this is the set-aside portion. Put it before yourself, eat, for it was reserved for you for the feast time when I told the cook about the people I had invited. So Saul ate with Samuel on that day.
Okay, here, the prophet tell Shaul HaMelech, listen, what I'm telling you is not a blessing. It's a matter of fact, a prophecy. And to prove that it was a prophecy, I'm going to call the cook, I'm going to call the chef, and I'm going to ask him to tell you what did I told him. And the chef told him, obviously, that the prophet said to him, listen, keep a special portion, that with a tie, and keep the place next to me empty. So when they come, offer them that portion. Why all of that? Asked the Mefarshim. The Mefarshim explained the Mitzudot David say that Shaul didn't believe that he deserved to be a king. Shaul didn't deserve, in his eyes, to rule the Jewish people. But what's happened? Shmuel HaNavi needed to prove to him that all of it was planned, all of it is a prophecy. Listen, Shaul, you're going to be the king. And I'm not blessing you, and I'm not telling you. This is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu told me, and that's what I revealed to you. That means that you don't have a choice here. That it's all hashgacha pratit. And to prove it, look, the place next to me, no one's sitting, because I kept it specially for you. The chef told you personally that I told him to keep a special portion from the offering for you. So now you can understand that I'm not blessing you. I'm actually telling you a prophecy. In verse 25 and 26, here we see something very interesting. וירדו מהבמה העיר וידבר עם שאול על הגג. וישכימו ויהי כעלות השחר ויקרא שמואל אל שאול הגגה, לאמור קומה ואשלחך, ויקום שאול ויצאו שניהם, הוא ושמואל החוצה.
With 25 verse.
25, 26.
Yes. When they descended from the high place to the city, he spoke with Saul on the rooftop. They arose early, and at daybreak, Samuel called Saul to the roof, saying, Arise, I will send you off. So Saul arose, and the two of them, he and Samuel, went outside.
Okay, what's happening here? After the feast, after they finished to eat, Prophet Samuel called King Saul, and he said to him, listen, we need to talk. They gone outside, they didn't spoke next to the servant, next to the boy. A matter of fact, the Mefarshim say that all night, Shmuel Hanavi, the prophet Samuel, explained to Shaul how a Jewish king should behave, how he should have the fear of heaven, how that he should rule, okay, the Jewish people, how much you have to be afraid from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how to conduct, how as a king have to behave, how to conduct his kingship. Say Rashi HaKadosh, that all of that night, Shaul HaMelech, actually, Shmuel HaNavi spoke to Shaul and explained to him and given him a lot of direction, and he rebuked him in everything that he can to prepare him to become the future king, the first king of the Jewish people. And verse 27, we're basically ending up, and we'll see that that will lead to something very, very interesting in chapter 10. Look what it says, הם היורדים בקצה העיר, ושמואל אמר אל שאול, אמור לנער, ויעבור לפנינו, ויעבור, ואתה עומד כיום, וישמעך את דבר אלוהים. Jeffrey, I think that you muted.
Sorry, I did. Right. So, as they were going down to the edge of the town, Samuel said to Saul, Tell the attendant to go on ahead of us. So he passed ahead. You stand here now, and I will tell you. Hear the word of God.
What's
And
happening?
and I will let you hear the word of God.
What's happening here? Here it's actually, if we're looking, here was starting the anointment of King Saul. The following morning, Shmuel HaNavi accompany Shaul and the boy towards the end, take them out of the city. They're returning back to their house. King Saul, the prophet Samuel asked, sorry, there's some noise at the back. Let me just mute it quick. There's people talking at the back. Let me mute. Okay, sorry about it. The prophet asked Samuel to tell the servant to go a bit ahead so they can be alone. And here actually, the prophet surprising Shaul. It says, "Ve'ashmiacha et dvar Ha'Elohim. What does it mean, Dvar Ha'Elohim? That I'm going to anoint you and you're going to become a king. In verse 10, in chapter 10, sorry, next week we'll explain how is he anointed. A matter of fact, just for general knowledge, King Saul been anointed twice. And there's a special reason for it. We'll explain next week, Ezrat Hashem. Why did Shaul have to be anointed twice? Number one. Number two, what's happening here? The question that we're going to keep asking ourselves, why did Shaul been anointed privately, not in the front of all the people the first time? Why not to anoint him straight in the front of everyone, and everyone will know that he's a king? No, he didn't. The prophet done exactly what HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him. You're going to anoint him now, and we see how is he anointed and which oil. We'll explain the difference, what's happening. That's all in Shavua Haba.